Here's a still of initial contact, peak knee flexion, push off, and flight. Here are their corresponding ranges of motion at the trunk, hip, knee, and ankle for initial contact here, peak knee flexion, and etc. When we look at a gait analysis, what we're really paying attention to is the energy absorption phases, specifically initial contact to peak knee flexion. We see a vast majority of musculoskeletal pain show up during these phases versus energy generation. So we're thinking push off and flight. We pay really close attention to all the whole body positioning during initial contact and peak knee flexion and see where are you absorbing impact and where may you be overstressing in certain areas. So as we go through, let's take a look at initial contact. First thing we want to pay attention to is the trunk angle. Vertical is, are you leaning posteriorly, which equals a lot of braking forces. Hip flexion, knee flexion, and ankle position. It's nice for us to know these static measures, but what we care most about are the excursion or change in range of motion from initial contact to peak knee flexion. So as we look at this column, which represents the excursion, we see a 5-degree increase in trunk lean, forward trunk lean. We see a loss of some hip flexion, and we see a nice gain in knee and ankle range of motion. So when we see that increase in range, that represents energy being absorbed at that joint. This would definitely fall under the quad dominant or knee strategy. So we're thinking we're loading up the quad and patella a little bit more in this specific example of gait versus the hip and the glute max.